Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where I'm delighted to say Tottenham have just beaten Burnley 1-0 in the FA Cup third round. We will be in the hat now for the fourth round draw, which will take place on Monday evening before the Wigan v Manchester United game. Pedro Porro, with a 78th minute goal, has put us in that fourth round draw. It wasn't the best of games, but Ange Postecoglou went strong in this game today. And I'm absolutely delighted that we are through to the next round because, of course, it is nearly 33 years since we last lifted this competition. What an unbelievable stat. I've got three very special guests, as per usual. We have got channel regular Becky Day with us. Becky, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It's a bit weird watching it at home, got to be honest. But that's school, being back to school for you. But yeah, I'm pleased we got the result. I think the quality showed in the end, and what a great goal. I nearly broke the cat when that goal went in.
We've also got back with us Mike Apps, of course, BBC broadcast journalist with BBC South News. Mike, pleasure to have you back. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Chris. Really good to be with you, and yeah, just so pleased that we're through to the next round. The fact that we've still got our cup dream alive for this year, for this weekend at least. How horrible it would have been to watch all the other ties unfold with us out of it. So the main thing is we are still in the hat.
Mike, I saw your face when I said nearly 33 years since we've last lifted the FA Cup. That is an unbelievable stat, isn't it?
Horrible.
And joining us for the very first time, I'm absolutely delighted to bring on Ben Impson. Ben, how are you?
A lot better for that Porro goal. It's quite funny when you mentioned the 33 years ago. I was there, so it just makes me feel like an old man. I was lucky enough to be there for 81, 82 and 91. So,
how's life changed for you then, Ben, in those 33 years?
A Spurs fan, not really. apart from missing some missing some trophies. I've always enjoyed the FA Cup. It was, from when I was a kid, it was a whole day thing. Your whole family was round the telly. The programme started at 10 in the morning and went through till after the game. And for your team to be in it, and get through and be in the final was always an amazing feeling that I'll never forget.
Well, let's get on to talking about the match stats. Tottenham Hotspur had 63% of the ball to Burnley's 37%. Shots, Spurs had 16 to Burnley's 10. Shots on target, Spurs 7 to Burnley's 1. We had 8 corners to Burnley's 3. Fouls, Spurs 14, Burnley 11. Becky, let's come to you. Let's start the show with you. Your thoughts on today's game, because sometimes in cup competitions, you've just got to get through to the next round. And I know we're going to talk about lineups in a minute, and I'm absolutely delighted with the lineup that Postecoglou put out today. And I must say, we did a preview show a couple of days ago. I chose the team that I wanted to see, and it was identical to the team that Postecoglou put out today. So I was absolutely delighted. But it wasn't the best of games, but we got the job done. And the main thing is that we are in the fourth round draw.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, watching it at home is slightly strange. Is that I always thought we were going to get the goal. I thought the possession that we had, the intensity that we had, we were always going to kind of get there in the end. I just didn't think it would be the kind of goal that we had in the end. Johnson played. If you think about it, Johnson was playing in different positions. Kulusevski played in 2 different positions because of all the changes that we made. It was great to make so many attacking subs. I thought the defence was very solid. It says they're 1 shot on target from Burnley. I don't remember them having a great deal. It was a bit like the Bournemouth game. There was sort of like half chances and headers over and things like that. Vicario didn't have a great deal to do. So I always felt that it was coming. You could hear the nervousness in the stadium at home. You could tell there was a good atmosphere at the beginning, and it did kind of wane a little bit. So I think people were nervous that Burnley were just going to go and get a goal and we'd been knocked out. But like you said, we've got through. We're in the hat. We can now watch the rest of the ties this week, knowing that we are through. The other thing as well is we didn't want a replay. So we had to have a replay in the so-called winter break, which had just been ridiculous. So we needed to get the job done. We did get the job done. And like I said, I thought there were some really positive things from that game. Bentancur being captain, playing for longer than he played on Sunday as well. I tweeted earlier that didn't even know he was fit on Sunday, and today he's captain. It's just crazy. Having Van der Ven back on the bench, Sassignon came on, Scarlett came on. I thought Scarlett was quite lively when he came on. He was dropping deep. he was quite involved. Richarlison wasn't as involved, but then the number 9 position that he plays is slightly more of a just sort of be there. You know, the goal that we scored came from his sort of very strange sort of standing on the ball back heel thing. But again, that came from the press, the high press. I thought Udogie played well. Like I said, I felt the goal was coming. I'm just, you know, I'm delighted that we're through.
I've got to say, a couple of Spurs fans and myself were joking about replays in Burnley on a Tuesday and Wednesday night. I wasn't going to be looking forward to that. I was confident all the way that Spurs would get this job done, no matter how we did it. Mike, your thoughts on the game today?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, it's one of those matches where you just kind of, I feel, got an idea from quite early on. It was going to be hard work tonight, unfortunately. I think you come out the traps really quickly and hope to race into an early lead. That's when Ange's side seems to be at their most effective. But when it's not coming off, suddenly the doubts start to creep in and you start to think, well, hold on, this is our first test without Son. I mean, if you think about it, really, we came into this match without the 2 most important players from the last win, Son and Sarr. So that alone is a big test before you throw in, you know, the ongoing situation of our first choice central defence being out, you know, Bentancur just coming back from injury, all the different issues we're having to deal with. So I think it was one of those where it just got to a point fairly early on. I think we just kind of felt we've just got to get across the line tonight, because basically we're not going to get loads of credit for winning this, and we won't. No one's going to turn to tomorrow's papers and say that was a sparkling performance by Spurs and their names on the cup. Nothing like that. But you can absolutely bet that if we had slipped up tonight, even with a replay, then people would have been piling on saying, oh, we'll take Son out of that. They're not going to have him for 6 weeks. Richarlison, he's not up to it. All of that. So it was just so wonderful that the side found a way to get across the line tonight. And I couldn't believe it. Of course, when you think about it, this is the case. But I was amazed when they were saying on TV, that's Porro's first goal of the season. He's been such an important player. You always feel like he must have been more involved than that. But of course, it's all about assists with him, really, this season. But terrific to see him get off the mark and to really, in the end, take it into his own hands and back himself to score there. And absolutely rightfully, I guess, one of his first ever Man of the Match awards in a Spurs shirt.
Very well said, Mike. It was a fantastic goal, and he has been one of our standout performers all season. There's no doubt about that. Ben, your thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, again, I mean, I agree with what Mike's saying. I think we looked a bit nervous when we started. I mean, I looked at the first 11, and I'm look at it a little bit different. I actually thought, where were the goals going to come from? Because I'm looking at Richarlison, not really, you know, although he's hit a few bit of form and he's had a few goals, and you look at the 2 wingers, they're all a bit hit and miss. And if they don't get off to a flying start, their confidence seems to go a little bit. Richarlison in the first half, the first 20 minutes, it reminded me of an old UB40 song, I Am a 1 in 10, because it seemed to be, you know, that was the only one he was going to get on target. Johnson played really well in the first half, but just that final sort of time when he was cutting inside, and you think, shoot, and he didn't. We tried that walking the ball in again, and in the final third, I thought we were poor today, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think it was the best first half. I completely agree with you, Ben. And you know, there were a couple of chances for Richarlison that he dragged wide. When you're playing this Tottenham Hotspur team, and we want to go on to, you know, play in Champions League and push on to that next level again under Ange Postecoglou, Richarlison at least needs to get those shots on target, doesn't he?
Yeah, but again, though, that will come with, as we get towards the Champions League and we get better players in around him, you know, and the squad gets stronger and stronger as we go on. Then obviously these chances will come a lot more often and a lot clearer. There were times today, again, as Ange has already alluded to, the final third is where we can improve the most. And I think you could see that today. I think it sort of stood out that we were trying to walk the ball in. We were trying too many clever passes in a really crowded area. Because to be fair to Burnley, I thought they defended really well. You know, you could see right from the start, I think at the first 10 minutes, watching it at home on the telly, that there were the 2 banks of 4, the 2 in front, and they were well drilled. And as we went out wide, they just concertinaed in and made that space really narrow. And instead of going round and out the back, we actually chose to try and go through that space.
I think when you look at the league position, and now, of course, we're through to the fourth round of the FA Cup, Ange Postecoglou has said on a number of occasions so far this season that, you know, areas of work, real work, is in that final third. And I think we can all see that. And when everything does get clicking, I'll tell you what, it's going to be some exciting times ahead. Becky, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11, because as I said, you know, we did a preview show a couple of days ago, and this is the exact team that I picked and said this is going to be the strongest possible 11. And I hope that Ange does go strong in this competition, because let's face it, in recent seasons under Mauricio Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, there have been a number of changes and quite strange decisions in cup games where we've ended up going out. Fans have been left feeling very frustrated. I think it's fair to say that, you know, some people would say Højbjerg is a better player than Skip. But in my opinion, you know, when you've got a player like Højbjerg probably looking for a move away from the club, it's probably better to play Skip. That's my personal opinion. The starting 11 today, by the way, was Vicario, Porro, Emerson, Davis, Udogie, Skip, Bentancur, Lo Celso, Kulusevski, Richarlison and Johnson. Subs today, Forster, Phillips, Dorrington. Great to see Mickey van der Ven back on the sub bench. Ryan Sessegnon, who of course got minutes today as well after 11 months out through injury. So fantastic to see him back getting minutes. Højbjerg, Donnelly, Brian Hill and Dane Scarlett, who of course has just returned from a loan spell at Ipswich. Becky, let's get your thoughts on the starting 11. Do you agree with me, or would you have liked to have seen a different lineup to what Postecoglou put out?
I agree with you in the sense that I'm glad it was a really strong side, like we just said. You know, even the Carabao Cup this year, when he played a weaker team against Fulham, that didn't go down, that didn't work, did it? So lots of people saying, please go strong, and he did. Even Bentancur starting, you know, after him starting on Sunday, he may have decided to not start Bentancur, but he did. He made him captain. I think I would have probably had Højbjerg.
Sorry to interrupt. In Ange Postecoglou's press conference just now, he's confirmed that Ben Davis, it looks like he's done his hamstring. So it now looks like we've got another injured player. Sorry to interrupt, by the way. That's okay, it's fine. He said when he was interviewed before the game on ITV, they said, how are you going to cope without Son, Sarr and Bissouma? And he said, we haven't played a set at 11 almost any game this season. So we're used to having changes. And I said to my friend yesterday, get the win and let's have a game without any injuries. And you just don't seem to manage it, do we? Yeah, what a shame. Davis has been great stepping up for Van der Ven as well and coming in. So that's really disappointing for him. But yeah, I think if it possibly could have been Højbjerg, but I was pleased that Skip played. I thought that, you know, in the first half, the Lo Celso, Bentancur, Skip sort of triangle, you could tell was a bit rusty. But you could see Bentancur's job was to get it out to the wings quickly, either to Kulusevski or to Johnson. And we've already said that possibly Johnson's final ball was not quite there. But then I can remember that shot that he was very Sonny-esque in the first half, where he kind of curled it and it was saved. Yeah, I think I'm just pleased he went strong. You know, there were rumours that it was going to be Forster in goal, and it wasn't. It was Vicario. Like I said, I think we've talked before about having 4 fullbacks playing, but Davis and Royal have really stepped up when they've needed to do that. But yeah, it just looks like we've got a gap now, haven't we, into United games? So it looks like Van der Ven would start instead of Davis. But again, we can't seem to get this kind of routine of players because there's just injuries and. But yeah, I was pleased with the team. I was pleased we went strong, and I'm pleased we set it out, you know, in the right way. Mike, let's come to you on the starting 11. Were you surprised? Because I've got to admit, although I wanted the team, I was surprised.
I was really surprised. I thought it was absolutely nailed on that Forster was going to start in goal. I think when those rumours were kind of around this morning, I convinced myself it's a certainty because, you know, he's had one game in the League Cup, didn't he, against Fulham, hasn't figured since then. And you think of all the games he had to play last season because of Lloris, you start to think, well, it's almost sort of common sense. But then again, you look at that starting 11, and with all of the absentees we've got for all those reasons, it's just, in the end, I think, common sense from Ange to just say, well, we've had to make too many changes. We've compromised so much for reasons outside of our control. Why would we do that for things that we can control? So I think, again, really, really pleased that he picked the team that he did. For me, I think the only thing would be, and you know, in the end, the result speaks for itself, but possibly just that feeling that we went with all the top available options. There didn't seem to be a lot of pressure on that front three of Kulusevski, Richarlison and Johnson through the match, where to me, I'd have liked to have seen Scarlett coming on a little bit earlier just to keep them on their toes a bit, because I did feel, whilst they're all effective in their own way, none of them had a fantastic game tonight. It would be nice to have seen them, I think, sharpened up a little bit. But in the end, very much I think reward for Ange tonight for taking this competition seriously. Long may it continue.
Michael, so it's fantastic to see Ryan Sessegnon back on the bench. Of course, he got minutes today, and the main one, Mickey van der Ven, of course, is back. Hopefully now he will feature in that Manchester United game in 9 days' time. But, you know, great to have them back, isn't it?
Don't you just love this thing with Ange for the mystery player appearing on the bench or in the starting lineup? Sessegnon today, Bentancur, complete surprise last weekend. It reminds me of, do you remember when we had West Ham in the FA Cup quarter-final when George Graham was still in charge? And I remember going into that match, Harry Redknapp, he was West Ham manager, and he said Stuart Pearce was 99% certain not to play. And of course, he played and scored a free kick into the top corner. And I feel like he ruled out Sessegnon for a few more months. He's just said he's not a chance of him being involved. And yet he was back in today. Great to see him back. And let's hope this surgery is going to finally solve his ongoing problem with the hamstring and finally see him get a run in the side.
Ben, let's come to you on the starting 11, because as I've already mentioned, I was delighted to see that starting 11 and you know, Anne showing real intent to win this game, take this competition seriously and go through to the next round, because of course he made 10 changes against Fulham earlier on in the season, where of course we lost on penalties. Surely you were pleased with the strong lineup?
Yeah, over the moon. It's always it's one of those sort of things when you have a lot of injuries, and like Mike alluded to, do you sort of put some other people in just to give somebody a rest? But we've said this many times before, it's go strong, get your lead, and if you can change players, then you can. And as the game panned out, we didn't have that luxury, but glad to see him go strong. The only difference I would have made was I've gone a bit braver. I'd have put Donnelly on instead of Skip. And just tried a bit more creativity from that back, because I thought today as well as from that final third, from the back four going into the midfield, we were just a bit slow. We were just a bit ponderous, a bit too precise with what we were trying to do, rather than that Ange likes that off the cuff, you know, be a bit braver, be a bit quicker. We moved the ball far too slowly today for his liking, I think. And someone like that who's forward thinking, who wants to get on that front foot, turn and go at people, might have made that little bit of a difference. Apart from that, everything was all good, as you know, and as Becky alluded to, it's just get through. It's an FA Cup, you know. I can remember being, I think going back to 81, we were in a quarter final, we played Exeter at home. We were awful, but we scraped through 2-0. It doesn't matter. You know, no one remembers the game. They remember we went through 2-0 and went on to win the cup that year. We were absolutely awful against a side that was then back in the third division. So, yeah, just get through. Real strong team. Yeah, I'm always happy to see us play our strongest side.
Here. And I'm always most upset when we go out of a cup competition, I can tell you that. Postecoglou in his press conference was just asked about where Eric Dyer was today. And, of course, there is lots of speculation about him possibly signing for Bayern Munich. He has just stated, I know absolutely zero. Eric Dyer is injured. He got injured in training yesterday. That is why he wasn't selected today. But we'll talk a little bit more on that shortly. Becky, let's come to you. Tottenham's first chance of the game was after 10 minutes. A good move from the back, resulting in Richarlison shooting wide. As I mentioned earlier, it's chances like this. He needs to at least get it on target, doesn't he? There's been a lot of criticism for Richarlison, but he did have a very good December. He scored 5 in his last 5 Premier League games. Hit a bit of form, but surely he's got to be doing better with some of these shots.
Yeah, and I think I said on the show that I was on after the Brighton game is that a lot of the chances he had at Brighton, Kane scores those in a heartbeat. And it's awful. You don't want to keep comparing him to Kane, but they're the chances that we never have to worry about because they're in. And Richarlison doesn't. And I think he is a confidence player. I think, interestingly, the 2 goals that he scored, Everton and Bournemouth, have come from Johnson from the wing, first time cross, boom. When he doesn't have to think about it, he's a great finisher. So, like, going back to the goal that we actually scored today, he was trying to do some weird back heel thing. You know, if the ball had come to him at pace and he doesn't have to think about it, then he is a better player. yeah, I think, like we said, all of the front three had a reasonably patchy game, really, and hence that we haven't have a fullback that scores our goal for us. And interestingly, when Porro scored, I turned to Jack and went, "We've shot. We've actually shot. We've had a shot and we scored." And there's been a few games where we sort of struggled to get over the line this season, or when we lost to Villa and we lost to Wolves, where we weren't shooting enough. So I think it'd be nice in these sort of 9 days where Ange does that. Let's get that. We're not having Sonny. Let's get that kind of firepower. We've got Scarlett back now. I know we've lost Valise, which is really annoying for Valise as well, that we've got lost another striker. But I think that's possibly something that we do need to work on, because I think as poor of United have been recently, the United game is not going to be as straightforward as people make out. So we're going to have to be clinical with our chances against United as well.
Apparently, just now, Postecoglou was asked if he could still afford to let Eric Dyer go this month with Ben Davies now injured. He gave a considered pause and then answered yes. How interesting. Mike, let's come to you. In the 11th minute, Brennan Johnson shot from 20 yards, saved from the goalkeeper. In the 14th minute, Johnson with another shot. It was actually a tame header at the goalkeeper. What did you make of Brennan Johnson tonight, and what have you made of him in a Spurs shirt since signing from Forest?
Thought he kind of encapsulated tonight, really, a lot of what we've seen from him in a Spurs shirt so far. I mean, I thought pace, fantastic. His first touch at times, the way he was like taking the ball in his stride, for long periods, considering, as we all know, he'd much rather play on the right. He's having to do a job on the left. And I thought he looked really threatening. It was finding lots of space out there. But it just comes down to that final third, as I think Becky was saying earlier, Ange highlighted this. The fact is that even when we were on that terrific run right at the top of the table, he was concerned that we're just perhaps lacking that fluidity in the final third. And I think Johnson absolutely sums that up right now, because he just feels to me like a massive work in progress. There's no question. We bought him because he's got a really high ceiling. I think the problem is that, you go back 10, 15 years ago, perhaps more than that, when we bought another promising young player from Nottingham Forest, Andy Reid. Back then, you take a chance on a player who, as with Brennan Johnson, is a full international, and you're paying sort of £4 or £5 million, and you think, let's give him a chance, and you give him time, and you see which way it goes. Whereas now, of course, in the inflated market, and also because he had a full season in the Premier League under his belt, we've paid, sort of 10 times that to get Brennan Johnson. So it feels like the pressure's on him that bit more. Of course, I think the injury to Perisic as well hasn't helped, in terms of perhaps he'd have played a little bit less than he has done, because there's just been that over-reliance with these sort of key injuries as well. Solomon as well being out, I think has had an impact on that. So, I'll keep faith with Johnson. We've seen enough from him already to suggest he's got a big future with us. But I just think it'd be lovely if he could just be a little bit further on down the road in terms of his development. But then, to be fair, when we signed him, that was kind of what a lot of Nottingham Forest fans were saying, that he's a great player, but perhaps just has to step it up just a notch from where he is right now to fulfil that potential.
Ben, let's come to you in the 15th minute. Richarlison with another shot at the goalkeeper, tame, so very comfortable for the keeper. A minute later, there was a minute applause for 16-year-old Harry Pittman, who sadly was killed on New Year's Eve. The hashtag that went on the screens, End Knife Crime. A very sad moment inside the stadium, but every single Spurs fan on their feet applauding. In the 28th minute, Burnley had a chance, fired over the bar. In the 31st minute, Johnson shot wide after a cross. In the 41st minute, I've written down here, Pedro Porro, corners. I don't want to Pedro Porro out today, because of course he scored a wonderful goal and he's put us through to the fourth round. But Pedro Porro with either free kicks or corners couldn't seem to beat the first man up to the 41st minute. What did you make of that? Because we're so used to seeing a really good display from Pedro Porro.
Yeah, I think he borrowed Eriksen's shirt for a while. I think it's just frustrating. It is that thing of, as Ange says, sometimes they are just human and they have off days. I mean, luckily he didn't have off one with his shot, but yeah, his corners and free kicks were poor today. But I don't think he was helped out with sort of players coming off of him and taking the ball. I thought Lo Celso was poor today. I thought Lo Celso went to ground far too early a lot of times, if Ricky Norwood's watching, he's never going to worry about him with dancing on ice because he couldn't stay on his feet for 2 minutes. You know, it's and a lot of the players like that, I think they played well within themselves, Chris. I don't think they were comfortable in coming. I want the ball. Give it to me. And you didn't see a lot of that. So, you know, he tried, and I think he just had a good game. It's just all of a sudden we sort of pick out the bits that he's used to be doing, you know, well, week in, week out.
The one person that I thought was hungry for the ball was Bentancur, though. You could see the way he was kind of coming for the passes, and he was. I said to them, he was just felt like he was getting kicked, and it just makes me flinch every time anybody goes near him. But he was trying to get on the ball, and he was trying to spray passes to Kulusevski and to Johnson, and
in my notes here, Becky, he just cruised through the game. He was just exceptional. He's just lovely to watch on the ball. Again, like I think there was one time, I think it was in second half where he got fouled, but he did that little Maradona turn and got away from him. So it was, you know, you can see that the manager. It's only his second game back.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, brilliant.
Becky, you mentioned Rodrigo Bentancur there. Of course, he was wearing the captain's armband today, and fully deserved, by the way. I expected Ben Davies to be wearing it, but, you know, Bentancur, brilliant, fantastic. You know, of course, you can rely on him, real leader on the pitch. How much did we miss him when he wasn't playing for Tottenham? Because every single time he's on the ball, he just looks so comfortable. He looks like he's going to open up defences and play that killer pass. He's an incredible player, isn't he?
Yeah, and they said in commentary that obviously he's had a lot of injuries to deal with, and that's why I was saying that when he's, you know, you went for one, I remember down by the corner flag, I think it was in the second half, and there was the one tackle that he made near Ange that they did go to VAR, is that to have that confidence in his own body to do that when he's been injured. We remembered a lot Sonny last year when Sonny was injured, and when Richarlison was carrying an injury, they were not quite 100%, and there were certain challenges and things that they wouldn't go into 100%. Probably for fear of getting injured again. But Bentancur hasn't come back with that fear, and that's what everybody loves about him. And you could hear in commentary and in the stadium when he was doing those little turns, and he was sort of playing. He kind of ran around himself and then passed it, and then someone gave it to him, and it just is just wonderful to watch. So when we've got Sarr back, and we've got Basuma, and we've got Maddison, and we've got that midfield that we've been craving all season, it's going to be fantastic to watch. Just hope he stays fit.
Mike, let's come to you at half-time. Of course, it was 0-0. How are you feeling at that point?
Concerned, to be honest with you, which is a horrible thing to admit, isn't it? You know, we should keep faith with Ange and not worry about these things. But it's just we've seen it so many times before. And this is where I suppose we have to sort of get into the new mentality. You know, like how Ange was so fantastic in his press conference yesterday when he got that question about, can you picture lifting the cup? And he said, well, I don't need to imagine it. I've done it, you know, which is fantastic. And that's, you know, clearly the sort of approach we all need to take right across the club. But no, it was a worry because I just think that, you know, Burnley, they weren't great tonight. Clearly, they were limited in their ambition tonight. But if you are just going to keep on knocking on the door like we were without taking these opportunities, then it lays yourself open, as we saw at the very end of the match, as I'm sure we'll come on to. So yeah, there was some concern there, and also concern from the fact that you look at the bench, and obviously there's not a lot there to choose from to change things. I was surprised, I have to say, that there were no changes at halftime. I think the change of Højbjerg came on a lot later than I think possibly most of us would have made. It makes you wonder what was said by Ange in the dressing room at halftime. They certainly sort of came out as if, you know, Porro looked like he had a massive point to prove, the way he was geeing up the crowd from that throw-in very, very early on. But, you know, it wasn't an immediate reaction if he was looking for a reaction, but thankfully we did get there in the end.
It wasn't only that, Mike. They were out a lot earlier than Burnley were, and there was still time left of the half-time break, and the Spurs players were out. So it would have been very interesting to hear what Ange did say. Interestingly, I want to know what you would have changed at half-time. Would you have brought Højbjerg on for Skip earlier on at half-time? Is that what you're saying?
I think I'd have been tempted to, because I don't want to sort of single out Skip, because I think he is a much maligned player, considering that I think he's someone who would benefit from a run of games, which I don't think he's ever going to get in a Tottenham shirt now, sadly. We'll never say never, but I think that, you know, he's someone who just sort of comes in moments where we're really up against it, like we were tonight, and arguably he doesn't really suit this style of football all that well. So I think I'd have been tempted to make that change. And as I say, I don't know, I've just got a feeling about Dane Scarlett at the moment. I didn't think he was going to start the match, but I kind of felt like he might get a few more minutes. And from the contribution he made, I just have this feeling that opportunity is going to knock for him now with this injury to Villiers, with Son away. I think he hasn't shown himself to be a proven goal scorer above the sort of youth team level when he's been out on his loans yet. But, you know, people rave about the technical ability he's got. You know, I thought he was linking up the play really nicely tonight. And I think Ange sees a player there. If it hadn't been for us being eliminated by Fulham in the League Cup, I don't think he'd have gone out on loan. I think it was very much he felt an obligation to help him with his development. And I think, you know, Ange sees something there. And hopefully, from an attitude point of view, Scarlett is going to see this as a real opportunity that he must press his claim in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. These players have got to grab opportunities, and of course he went out on loan at Ipswich and didn't get any starts at Portman Road, which was a shame. Ben, let's come to you in the 48th minute. Lo Celso, good shot, goalkeeper saved it. You mentioned Lo Celso earlier. I've got to say, I haven't ever been Lo Celso's biggest fan, but these last couple of weeks, this last month or so, I think I'm changing my mind about him. You don't seem so sure.
Oh no, I was fine. He was just poor today, Chris. You know, the last few games he's been exceptional. Just today, I don't know what it was. He just didn't seem to want it as much. He could have taken that game by the scruff of the neck in that position, and he didn't. And it was there for him. You know, I know it was hard against the banks of four, but he never came. He wasn't spreading the passes around. He wasn't looking for those little killer balls that he did before. You know, in the last couple of games, especially like the Everton game and stuff. And yeah, that was all. It was just an off day for him. There's a player. He's World Cup winner. You know what I mean? There's a footballer there. It's just how Ange is going to get the best out of him.
I think the link-up play with Udogie and Lo Celso didn't work as well today as it has in previous games. I think in the past, when you've got Sonny, Udogie and Lo Celso, you know, mainly left-footed kind of play, that has worked. And obviously I was saying, you know, you've got Johnson and Kulusevski playing on different wings. You know, Johnson is not left-footed, but he plays on the left, and I think that had a part to play in it as well. Yeah,
that's why I would have liked to have seen Donnelly come on, because again, it's an extra player in that little area that's got that sort of talent that can alleviate some of the pressure. Give it to me, I'll have it instead, you know, and sort of make those spaces. But we're still first started.
Ben, let's stay with you, because in the 50th minute, and you're talking the first 5 minutes of the second half, we had two good chances. Kulusevski, good attempt on goal, just wide of the post. What did you make of Kulusevski's performance this evening?
A lot of work. A lot of work from him. He just, again, I think it was just the players around him. I think we were just a bit slow to support him in certain cases. He was quite isolated, so he had to cut inside. There was no one going on the overlap to give him that choice of that little ball through, and he was having to take the shots. Good shots. Unfortunately, I think there was one in the second half where he created a really good space for a shot and decided to pass it off. But yeah, you can't knock him for the effort he put in today.
Becky, let's come to you in the 53rd minute. Bentancur with a shot high over the bar. A couple of minutes later, Johnson shot a goal comfortable for the goalkeeper. In the 56th minute, Johnson with another shot, this time just wide from a Bentancur cross. Ange made a sub. Brian Hill coming on. Lo Celso going off in the 58th minute. Brian Hill then went on the left. Kulusevski in the middle. Johnson on the right. Is Johnson's best position on the right-hand side, would you say?
I would say so. I think, like you said, when he plays on the left-hand side, he's going to cut in. But then Kulusevski does that when he plays on the right-hand side as well. So, yeah, I think so. I think it depends with who's playing behind him. I think, going back to what you said, I definitely think there was a higher in intensity in second half. They came out with more of an intensity. You could say who were playing 10 yards further up the pitch. Porro was more involved. Udogie, who was maybe more involved in the first half, was kind of moving over on that side. And then you've got Johnson, who's moved over, and then Hill, who's always very busy. Bless him. So the intensity was definitely there. Hence why Porro was the one who got the ball back for the goal. Is that kind of high press was more obvious after the halftime whistle. Yeah, I think it's like we said. Johnson's very much needs a run of games. I definitely agree with what you said. He was never intended to play all these minutes, all these matches. It was supposed to be something he was developed, and then Perisic got injured and XYZ got injured, and yeah. So I think, bless him, I think if people forget Sonny had a really poor first season. This is his first season. It's because Van de Ven and Udogie have settled in so well in their first seasons that people are kind of very quick to judge. I think there's definitely a player in there, and I'm quite looking forward to seeing when it all kind of clicks together. But yeah, I think the intensity in the second half was much better.
I think with that, Becky, where you've got Johnson and Kulusevski, and you see them always cutting inside, it would be nice just once in a while to see them go for the byline, mix it up a bit. And that's something I think that's missing from their game. They got a little bit predictable. I mean, I watched, it was the first touch from Johnson, I think, early on in the game where he brought the ball down in his stride. It was a great touch, with his other foot. So, the talent's there. He's got the pace to get to the byline. So it's infuriating when he sort of stops and comes back in.
Yeah, I think a couple of times as well when they were pinging the ball over the top, he was hitting them first time. And I know I said the Bournemouth and the Everton goals, well, that's how we scored. As I said I was like, sometimes he needs to actually stop and have a look up. And it just went straight to a defender. And it's like, I know that's just the way they play. It's like boom, cross, quick pass. But sometimes it was like, no, we need to stop. And then you need to take the player on. Or like you said, the overlap with Udogie. And that did happen sometimes, but maybe not enough.
Yeah.
And Postecoglou has been asked again in the press conference about Eric Dyer. And he said, it's a separate issue, mate, but don't question my integrity. When I say he's injured, he's injured. Wow. Mike, let's come to you. We'll come on to the Dyer situation shortly. Mike, Johnson had another chance saved by the goalkeeper in the 66th minute. Is it fair to say, Andrew said that, we need to improve in that final third. The likes of Richarlison, the likes of Kulusevski and Johnson, with the amount of chances that we create, all three of them should be scoring more goals, particularly Johnson and Kulusevski from wide areas.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think, we need to see them up their contribution in that respect. And I think, obviously, the fact that Son as top scorers away, they're going to come even more into focus. But we'll see. We'll see how the next few weeks goes. I mean, no one seems to be seriously talking about us signing a striker in January. That's really... if we're going to make any kind of attacking purchase, then there's talk of like possibly another wide player. I suppose what I'm left sort of wondering about tonight, there was those two occasions in the match that stick in my mind where a ball was slipped through to Richarlison and he was kind of through on goal and he just like couldn't get away from the defender, or the defender just ate up the ground so quickly. And you just sort of couldn't help but think if it's Son, then at the very least it's more of a presentable chance. I just wonder whether it's at all in Ange's thinking, whether he sees Johnson as in this team for now purely a winger on the left or the right, or is there a scenario where he'd say let's try him for a period through the middle, because he's played there for Wales, he's played there for Forest. I suppose at the moment it is just the fact that you're less confident he's going to finish these chances that would be counting against him there. But right now with Son away, he is the player with pace who we have in that front line. So I just wonder if maybe that's something that he'll look at over the coming weeks now, particularly if you've got a tight match like this where we're really struggling to make the breakthrough.
I think that's a very fair point, because when you look at it, you look at Richarlison, there was again one in the second half where we were on the break and he couldn't get away from the defender. The amount of chances that Richarlison has to the amount he takes, the ratio, you think, why not give Johnson a chance? Yeah, it's a good call.
Ben, let's stay with you, because in the 77th minute, Oliver Skip went off, Højbjerg came on, and then just a minute later, Pedro Porro with a delightful finish, which I think most people in the stadium, including myself, thought that was actually going wide, but it went in the top corner, which was a great finish. Ange Postecoglou, in his post-match interview, has just said credit to Pedro Porro. He's been outstanding for us this year. He works hard at his game, and he is an exceptional footballer. That was one hell of a finish, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. Again, I'm sat there and I'm just watching a shot and thinking, where's that going? The next thing, everybody's jumping. It's just fantastic. Again, going back to my past, it reminded me of the 1981 FA Cup semi-final. Ricky Villa, who just hit one from miles out, couldn't be bothered to run, hit it right in the top corner. But yeah, name's on the cup, Chris.
Ben, it is fair to say, though, isn't it? Pedro Porro has been one of our standout performers, because when you go back to thinking about his debut away at Leicester last season, that was a hard watch, and Tim Sherwood said, one of the worst performances on a debut he's ever seen. I know Tim Sherwood don't big our players up very often, but you know, he's come a long way since, you know, being under Ange, hasn't he?
Oh, without doubt. I mean, Ange gives them a freedom to play, and I think that's, as a footballer, that's got to be the best thing. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake, but you're making a mistake doing what I want you to do. Going back to what Becky said, it was his first season. It's his second season now. You know what I mean? You bedded in a bit better. You know your surroundings. You're a bit more comfortable. I think the whole of the back four, when we have our normal back four with Vicario, they've all been outstanding this season. So, yeah, long may that continue.
Pedro Porro has just written the following on X with a picture of Harry Pittman and said, dedicating this win and my goal to you, Harry, vamos. Lovely touch. Becky, let's come to you. In the 83rd minute, Ange Postecoglou made a treble sub. Donnelly, Scarlett and Sessegnon all coming on for Bentancur, Richarlison and Johnson. As I mentioned earlier, fantastic to see Ryan Sessegnon back, although he probably might be sold in this January window or in the summer. But after 11 months out, you know, it's delightful for him to come back.
Yeah, and didn't Ange say last week that he was asked about him, I think, and he said he wasn't near fitness yet. But I'm enjoying these kind of press conferences where he's sort of, you know, tricking us. I had a conversation with someone on Twitter about half an hour ago going, actually, when we used to watch all the training videos and we used to be like looking for Kane or looking for Romero and all this, it's like, it's actually quite good that we don't do that anymore. It's quite refreshing. It means
his integrity.
It also means there's no meltdown when they miss their deadline, when he says they will be back by February and they haven't made it and everyone goes into a meltdown. So it's actually, again, if we're talking about the culture of the club, little things like that I actually quite like. I do like watching the videos, but not having to kind of, you know, dissect which player we can see in the background has been quite fun. So yeah, I'm delighted for Sessegnon. He isn't match fit. You could see there were a couple of runs when he was put through and he was struggling to kind of keep up with the ball, but he was kind of involved in sort of the chances near the end where him and Scarlett were having that kind of interplay, and there was a chance where I think Sessegnon curled one wide or it deflected off somebody. When we made those changes, we were really, really attacking, and like I intimated before, I thought Scarlett was dropping deeper. He was kind of pinging back balls about, and then he was running on, and he had a chance near the end. And compared to Richarlison, which just sort of stays in the number 9 position, it was quite obvious the difference that Scarlett was making. And like I said, if with Valise being injured, that might be something he can kick on with. But yeah, it's great to see players coming back. You know, bless him. Sessegnon's he's only 23. He's been at Spurs a really, really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, in the 86th minute, Sessegnon had a chance which went wide. I think it was actually saved by the goalkeeper. But it was a very nervy last couple of minutes, and Burnley very nearly scored, didn't they?
They really did, and it was just actually that moment where they came so close. I mean, well, obviously the worst moment was the goalkeeper's header right at the death, where the player was right in front of goal, put it wide. But no, I mean, I think I was certainly guilty watching at home, thinking, right, who are we going to get in the next round? And we might have a replay on our hands. I don't think it was quite in the player's mind, but certainly we committed a lot forward, and it comes down to really, as Becky was saying, just how attacking we were with those changes, and the fact that under Postecoglou, I think we all accept it's always going to be about, let's make it 2-3-0 rather than let's protect the 1-0. And I think we all buy into that. But, you know, we nearly, I suppose, had a harsh reminder of the fact that there is something to be said for shutting up shop in those final moments, which certainly we're more than used to under other recent managers at Spurs. But, you know, that's how Postecoglou goes about things. And so far this season, it's definitely brought more benefits, more positive than negative for us.
Vicario plays the ball out really quickly when we are 1-0 up or 2-0 up. We did it at Everton, and I'm thinking, do a Pickford. I shouted at Everton, do a Pickford and drop to the floor with the ball. And he was doing it today. He was rolling the ball out really quickly. He's like, no, just drop on the ball. Just slow down. It does, you know, there were 7 minutes of injury time. I think watching it back, that incident at the end where the goalie headed it on, the player was offside. I messaged my friend straight away who's in the stadium, because of course in the stadium we don't see replays. He was like, what was that at the end? And I said, actually, I think it probably was offside, but because the game finished, you never really see the replays again. And I think because the person I was speaking to, he thought from his position it was in, it had gone in. But the block beforehand from Højbjerg was excellent as well, for the corner before that. So, you know, I think Højbjerg, when he came on, did quite well. He made some pinging some balls, you know, across the field, and he made some good interceptions. So I know he may be somebody that's moving on as well. I thought when Højbjerg came on, he was quite important for us.
It's so interesting, Becky, because I go down to the tunnel after each game to see the players walking off the pitch, and it's so interesting to see the interaction with the players and the coaching staff, etc. And this season, pretty much every game, including today, Højbjerg walks down that tunnel, one of the first players in on his own, doesn't interact with any other player. I think it's pretty evident that he will be heading to the door.
And I said that before, that we're quite a hugging team. Everybody hugs, don't they? And then you watch, like when we've gone to I can remember at Luton when Van der Ven was pushed, and when Richarlison scored at Sheffield United and he was pushed to the south stand. Højbjerg is often standing a few rows back and he doesn't kind of interact. Yeah, I said that exact same thing. He's not a hugger. I think I tweeted to say that he high-fived Sonny after the Bournemouth game when everyone is hugging. And yeah, the interaction is quite markedly different.
He actually gave his shirt away after the game and literally put his arm out, gave the guy his shirt and didn't even look at him. It was quite bizarre.
Yeah,
Mike, I would like to ask you all who your man of the match was today. And the other question I wanted to ask is, do you think Ange Postecoglou will go all out to try and win this competition and go and put the strongest possible 11 out in every single round that we are in this year?
So man of the match, it's very simple, really. It's not a kind of controversial thing to say. For me, it's Pedro Porro, just because he backed himself to take that shot on and score. It kind of felt like it was going to need to be someone taking the inspiration to do that, and richly deserved for him for the season that he's had. Postecoglou, yeah, I think you might be onto something there. I think he is going to go strong. I think tonight sent out a message, and I think, you know, it doesn't matter how many times people debate something like, you know, has he learned from the mistake of the Fulham match? I think we all might have deep down been thinking that, well, okay, we can say he's learned from it, but actually under Daniel Levy, it's all about top four, and he's going to be another manager who prioritises top four over everything else. But no, I think with Ange, I think he understands a little of why this is such an important competition to us as a club. And tonight, to me, is as clear an indication as we're going to get that he's going to go strong. He's going to take it seriously. So yeah, I think he is.
Mike, is this the year?
Yes. Let's say it. Yes. This is the year. Come on.
The trophies are coming. I haven't said that for a while. Ben, who is your man of the match? There's a lot of love for Emerson Royale in the comments today.
Yeah, he had a very good game. Very good game today. I think Porro's got to shade it for that goal. Between Emerson, Bentancur, I thought was fantastic for the time he was on the pitch. And obviously, you know, Porro, he just gets it for the goal, doesn't he? It was just quality. Will we win the cup? Yes. With the luck like we had in the last few minutes. You need luck. You need luck to win a cup. I know it's a bit early and I'm all getting a bit excited, but you need luck along the way. And we've had our fair share of bad luck lately, and it was nice to just get a little slice of good luck right at the end.
Becky, Becky, who is your man of the match, and do you think that Ange will go all out to win this competition? Because, of course, as I keep saying, it's been so long.
Yeah, my first season was 1991. I was a 10-year-old, so that was my first season as a Spurs fan. Yeah, I would say Porro. I think it's like when we say, you know, Sonny often gets it because of the goal. I think his second half particularly, but I agree with Royal as well. He made a lot of headers. You know, Burnley weren't particularly a difficult team. We weren't really under the cosh, but there were headers and interceptions that Royal made. And like I said, him and Davis were very calm. I never really felt that Burnley were going to score, apart from those minutes right there when they were sending the goalie forward. So are we going to go strong? I was at Middlesbrough away and I was at Sheffield United away, and they were painful FA Cup defeats. So it's kind of part of the reason I didn't go today. I thought I can't go because I can't get from school kicking off. So I was like, let's get through the FA Cup. Hopefully I'm not a bad luck, but I hope we will play strong. Why play strong in the third round and then not play strong in the other matches? However, it is dependent on who we keep fit. You know, it depends on the run of games, and I know the next round is still in January, isn't it, where we haven't got as many Premier League matches, but there's still the FA Cup in between. So again, it depends who we get, where we're playing, where the TV schedule gives us, you know, if we get another Friday night or a Monday night or something hideous, that kind of plays a part. But I'd like to think that he's going to play as strong as he possibly can, because he said he was going to, and then he has actually done that and played a strong team. So we'd hope that that would continue.
I remember those nights oh so well, Becky. Sadly, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Colchester. Let's throw that one in. There's too many. Let's hope that 2024 is our year. Mike, let's come to you on the transfer window, because of course Andrew said on a number of occasions that it would be great if we can get some business done early. One player that we have been heavily linked with in the 5 days that the January transfer window has been open so far is Radu Dragusin of Genoa. Apparently Spurs are offering 23 million euros. Genoa want 30 million euros. Negotiations are ongoing and expected to continue into the weekend, states Fabrizio Romano. But Napoli are also interested in Dragusin. How confident are you that we will get in a centre-back? Because I say that because Sky Sports also reported earlier today that the main priority is a centre-back, and Sky Sports at the moment believe that that is Tottenham's only target, and we won't be signing any other players apart from a centre-back. How would you feel if that is the case?
So the truth is, I'm not 100% confident we'll get him, because I think this is playing out like we've seen with Tottenham transfer windows for the last few windows, really, which is that we're linked with probably 2 players for a particular position. In the summer, it was Van der Ven came through as the rumour, and then there was the player, the name escapes me now, from Germany, who we were linked with as well. And it came down to Van der Ven was the one who we got across the line. Dragusin's been linked with us now for a couple of weeks. Todibo is the other one in France who's been linked. We're clearly not going to get both of them, but I think we'll get one of them. I think this is, we're led to believe that Paratici is not really closely involved. He's not allowed to be closely involved in transfers anymore, but I think he's probably set the tone for us in terms of how we do our business, which is we line up a couple of players and we try and get one of the two. And I think, therefore, everyone knows this is the priority position for us. I'd have loved us to have got this signed and sealed on the 1st of January, but it didn't play out that way any more than we expected it to. Let's hope that we can have someone lined up for the 14th of January and Man United away, particularly if Ben Davies is going to be on the sidelines.
Do you not think, Mike, that puts us in that position where everybody knows we want a centre-back? So all of a sudden, the price is going to go straight away. We can get an extra 5 million out of them because they need a centre-back. And then we've missed out of that we did at the start of the season was Tapsoba. And you're just wondering if we are going to go left field and just bring somebody out all of a sudden that nobody sort of knows we're linked with.
Yeah, maybe.
I was going to say, though, Ben, how important is it for Ange Postecoglou from now until the end of the season that in this January transfer window, we get the defensive reinforcements that we desperately need? Even more so now that Ben Davies could be out for some time.
Yeah, it depends how you look at it, Chris. I mean, it could be that thing of he's got to be the right player, because obviously we're building for the future. So you don't want to have to sign a stopgap, because then you've got to sell him on. And, we're not very good at selling on footballers, as we know. So, it is that belief. As long as it's the right player, then so
I think also when there's been players that we've been linked with before that we've never even heard of, and there's just these players that appear, and you can make good. I know some clubs will say there's nobody for sale in January. We had Bentancur and we had Kulusevski in January. Yeah. There are players that are available. I absolutely agree with you. It has to be the right player. So in terms of physique, height, speed, they all seem to be players. Also, flexibility of playing in a range of positions, I think, is something that also we are looking at. The other thing as well is, if the Dyer thing is to be believed, there may be a fee that we're getting for Dyer from Bayern Munich for 5 million. Reguilon is coming back. Is Reguilon going to move back out on loan? Is he going to go somewhere? Sessegnon may do. We've got Jed Spence back. Is Jed Spence going to go on loan, or is he going to command a fee from somewhere, maybe in the Championship? So I think actually, although a lot of this is Paratici, there are a lot of people behind the scenes involved with ins and outs of players. I think the fact that Scarlett has returned when Valisa's got injured, that is no coincidence either. That we need strength in depth, and although we have got players that we went sent out on loan. They come back. If they're not Andrew's fit, they will go out on loan again. Tanguy and Ndombele, for example. You know, there are going to be players that we can sort of hopefully adjust. But I do think there are other people that we haven't even heard of. That, you know, the Gallagher rumours have gone quiet again, and there are players that are involved. Kelly from Bournemouth, for example, he was very close to signing. I tweeted out today to say, even with Davis being injured, the fact that the links with Dyer are there, they wouldn't be gaining so much momentum if there wasn't somebody almost imminently coming in. And now, you know, we've got the weekend. We don't play again till a week on Sunday. I would like to think that by Monday or Tuesday, the person that we want is in the country and that things are starting to kind of move on.
It's like Ange said. He said there's a lot of revolving parts in these transfers, and you've just said it's a merry-go-round. So we have to sort that out. The other thing is we've bought players before in January for the summer, and I wouldn't even mind it if we did that, because you can see positivity. You can see the rebuild happening. So, I mean, what did we sign? Modric, didn't we? Dele Alli, players like that in the January transfer. I'll be quite happy to do that. Forward, centre back, whatever.
That happened with Sarr, didn't it? In Udogie, they got loaned back for a bit longer than that, but they weren't immediately part of the squad with us.
Just to say just quickly on Lloyd Kelly, I don't know if there's anything in this, but I've got a friend of mine at work who's a Bournemouth fan, and he told me last week he'd heard, supposedly on good authority, Lloyd Kelly to Spurs was the done deal. Now, I was obviously not talking about in the summer, talking about for this window. He's still injured, of course, but just interesting, talking about whether there could be someone from left field. He ticks a lot of boxes in terms of being homegrown and everything else. I don't know. Perhaps we might have a surprise still.
I said this before. The fact that Sanchez left on deadline day or just after, wasn't it? Because it was the Turkish league. It was almost like the Kelly one almost collapsed, or the Turkish one was so far advanced it couldn't then be brought back, and we ended up being left short. I think Ange would never have allowed that, but I think it was something to do with the Kelly one. It didn't quite materialise, did it?
Becky, surely the club and Ange Postecoglou have got something up their sleeve by him saying to journalists today that Eric Dyer can leave. Ben Davies is now injured. Of course, we've had all of these injuries. We've still got injuries. Romero is still injured. Surely they've got something up their sleeve.
Yeah, you think so? I know we've got Phillips, haven't we? But I think, yeah, I could just say I just don't. And the fact that Dyer is commanding a fee as well, I just think that he wouldn't. If he did sanction it in the summer, and then he can go back and say, well, we got left short, didn't we? You allowed Sanchez to go and we didn't have a replacement. We are not doing that again. I would imagine Ange has commanded that respect now to say that's not happening again. And the fact that he sounded, from what you said then, he sounded reasonably angry that he's being asked about it. Every time Dyer he's in the squad, he's always injured. He's had a lot of injuries this season, hasn't he, where he's not played. But the fact that he isn't, like on Sunday for the Bournemouth game, he wasn't selected. There were four fullbacks selected instead of Dyer, show that Dyer is not fit for this system. It's time for him to go, and that could be at the end of the season. But if we can go and somebody then comes in, like I said, that money then frees up to buy purchases of somebody else.
Mike, of course, in the last couple of days.
I was going to say, it's quite interesting with the hamstring injuries that we've got. I mean, I read a bit in the Standard this week that when he was at Celtic, his first season, Ange had 6 players out with hamstring injuries at one time. And he had the same problem when he was at Japan, his first season. He had 5 players out with hamstring injuries. So it just shows they've probably got to get used to his training methods and the way we play football. So we're going to need a lot of players.
It's a very interesting point, Ben, because he expects so much and expects them to run all day long. Mike, let's come to you, because in the last couple of days, Reguilon has come back from a loan spell at Manchester United. Jed Spence has just come back from a loan spell at Leeds United. Both clubs respectively sent the players back. They didn't get recalled by Tottenham. Daniel Farke of Leeds United basically said today about unprofessionalism with Jed Spence. What do you make of both of these players and their future? Surely, I don't think Ange wants either of them at the moment. I'm surely they're going to be heading out the door.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with Reguilon, I think this was totally expected. It's just this very kind of odd temporary deal with Man United, where it seemed almost all the reports when it was sealed was that he was going to only be there till January. It was very much a temporary arrangement that everyone bought into. And the fact is, he's played a few Champions League games. I don't think he's decreased his value if Spurs are looking to sell him in January or next summer. But Spence is obviously the one that is just such a head scratcher, isn't it? Where, you know, I'm kind of reluctant to completely pile in on Conte, as some do, but nevertheless, it was tempting to say, well, Conte didn't want him and he's not properly developed him, and we need just a fresh start for him under a new manager. But sadly, if that was on the cards for him and Ange in the summer, he didn't make the grade. He decided he had to go, and the evidence would be that under Daniel Farke, it hasn't worked out from there either. So a real shame. But again, hard to see him having a part to play this season with us. He's going to be out on loan again, you suspect, in the next few weeks. I don't think injuries, even the ones like we got to Davis tonight, are going to change that. And it's just more a case of finding the right place for him to go right now.
I was speaking to a Forest fan today, and they were saying they would have him back. They don't know why they didn't really pursue him, and that why he moved to Spurs. Because the rumours are that it's his attitude, isn't it, and his temperament that is the reason the Leeds have sent him back. And interestingly, kept Road on. I think, it's a club. It's maybe a Championship club somewhere that he can, because it didn't particularly work abroad for him either, did it? He didn't make a lot of appearances in France. It's a tricky one, really. He's got that ability, but unfortunately not the temperament.
It seems like another Tonguyon Dombele situation to me. Ben, let's come to you on Eric Dyer, because Sky Sports Germany have just reported that a verbal agreement has been reached between FC Bayern Munich and Eric Dyer. The 29-year-old wants to join Bayern. The contract will be at least until 2025, and Spurs will receive a fee of nearly €5 million. What do you make of this story? Surely Harry Kane's had something to do with this, hasn't he?
Yeah, you just wonder how he got injured. Did he trip over a bratwurst or something on his way? I actually think it suits everybody, doesn't it? Suits the club, suits the player. If he doesn't take this now, he might not get the chance of Bayern Munich in the summer, because they might go for somebody different. At the minute, it's a cheap option for them. $5 million's nothing. For us, we've got some money in the kitty to bolster up our January spend. So, it's a win-win, isn't it, really?
The rumours that I've read is that he would play in a defensive midfield number 6 position as well, which it is a slower league. And, Kane is one of his best mates as well. They've admitted that, Doherty, Dyer and Kane were very close. I just tweeted today, if he wins a trophy before Sonny, I will be devastated.
they all win trophies when they leave.
Yeah.
But they see him as a versatile player, though, Becky. They think he can do everything.
He used to in the past, didn't he? He started as a midfielder. That's why he started for us.
Yeah. I just think, as we've alluded to earlier, he just doesn't fit Ange's system now. Ange's game is totally different to the game that Dyer played, even under Pochettino. He was more adapt to the Conte system, because that's the way he liked him to play. And when you look at Tuchel, the way he sets up from the back and the way he plays through that back four and that defensive, that cover, I think he'll do well.
Mike,
you're on a winner anyway, aren't you?
Mike, let's come to you. I just want to get your opinions, all of you. The perfect window. What would be the perfect window for you?
Obviously, central defender. I think an upgrade on midfield. So, and by that I mean, I don't just mean signing a player and then having players like Højbjerg who are going to be disenchanted with things. It's actually being able to bring some money in to reinvest. I think that's the trick that we've struggled with for a long time now. And I think probably with financial fair play, it's top of all clubs' minds to do that. So I think it's clear with all the Conor Gallagher rumours which we had in the summer and we're getting again now, that's clearly something that Ange wants to address. I'm not sure we'll quite pull that off. So certainly I'd like to do that. And obviously, and this is absolute sort of dream scenario now, it is about a top class centre forward to replace at least the role of Harry Kane, if not replace Kane himself. That's what we all want to see, and that's what we kind of fudged in the summer, really, rather than properly addressing. But clearly that's not going to happen this January. That is fantasy land. So certainly for me, it's a central defender and it's an addition to midfield. And I think there's a decent chance of both, to be honest with you. I think we might just pull that off.
What about you, Ben?
I'm with Mike. I think through that spine of the team, I think the central defender, another midfielder, probably a bit more of a creative midfielder in there to shake things up a bit, to put a few, some of these boys under a bit of pressure, and a speedy forward, not just centre forward, a quick forward. So when we do break, it's, the wingers are flying and we've got a centre forward that can't keep up with them at the minute. So yeah, we need a speedy centre forward.
And Becky?
Yeah, I agree with that. And also it's kind of reasonably homegrown. I like the days when we used to have lots of players playing for England and Scotland and Wales and kind of British players. That would be great as well. But I agree. I think the rumours about Gibbs White, I know Forest are desperate for, their financial fair play is under threat as well. And I thought he played really well in the away game. So somebody quick, somebody, anyone who's hungry to play for Spurs, I just think, if this whole kind of, there's other players, there's other teams coming in for him and they're not sure. And I don't want him. I only want people who want to play for Spurs. And that kind of crop of players that we've had in the last sort of 2 years are really hungry to play for Spurs. They really want to play for Spurs. They buy into the culture. Like I said, we're a very huggy team now. You can see that kind of morale is there and that culture change. And I just want that to continue. So it doesn't really matter who it is. But I agree, defence, midfield, and a quick forward.
Do you think it's realistic?
What about you?
Well, you'd hope it's realistic. They've said that they've had all summer since we put the director of football in. What if it's case? What's he been doing all this time? So you'd hope that they have been doing their job.
Yeah, I agree. I think strength in all areas, especially with the amount of injuries and suspensions that we've had, and not only that, just to try and get us in that top four and get Champions League football next season. It's an absolute must. I've got two final questions for all of you. Becky, let's start with you. Who would you like Spurs to get in the fourth round of the FA Cup? Because of course the draw takes place on Monday.
Okay, I say the same answer to this all the time. Okay, I'm from Shrewsbury. Spurs have never played Shrewsbury ever. They nearly got them last year because Wrexham played Sheffield United, and then Sheffield United beat Wrexham, and then we ended up playing Sheffield United. The Spurs So yeah, Shrewsbury playing Wrexham Sunday, which was a big game. If Shrewsbury managed, even though for those people who don't know, I live in Chester, so Chester is very close to Wrexham. A lot of my colleagues work in Wrexham. My head teacher supports Wrexham, but I'm from Shrewsbury, and in Shrewsbury you don't really like Chester or Wrexham, so there's no affiliation to either of those. If Shrewsbury can get past Wrexham, I would love them to have Spurs in the next round. Other than that, a League Two, League One team. I don't want another Premier League team. I think Premier League teams are tricky because you never know that whether they're going to play a strengthened side or not. And there's no easy games in the Premier League. So that would be Shrewsbury would be my absolute hope. Other than that, League One or League Two. But I'm just so pleased we're in it.
Absolutely. I'm with Lynch 616 here. Anyone at home. Because I tell you what, when you've got 60,000 plus Spurs fans in this Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it does really make a difference. Mike, who would you like?
Yeah, I think lower league opposition would be great, and lower league opposition where they're going to come and try and make a game of it, really. I think, now that we're in this position where all of a sudden we're playing attacking football once again, it's going to be the tendency for sides to come and try and put everyone behind the ball and frustrate us. But if we can have an end-to-end match, then we back ourselves against a lot of teams, and certainly outside of the top flight. That would be a fantastic entertainment for us if we can get to the next round that way.
Ben, who would you like to see Tottenham face in the fourth round?
Firstly, it's the home draw, isn't it? The home draw, and yeah, not a Premier League side. Well, actually saying that, you can have some difficult games of the Championship. So yeah, we might as well have that lot down the road if they're still in it and beat them.
Love it. Right.
The one advantage about playing away is that there wouldn't be any VAR. So you're saying about playing home games.
Yeah.
If we play away games, there's no VAR.
Definitely.
If they're not in the Premier League.
I see that. Because that was awful today. Some of that VAR waiting for ages just for. We watched innocuous fouls.
Yeah.
And it took ages. Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, forgot about that.
Do you know what, Ben? I purposely haven't mentioned VAR throughout the whole of this podcast because I feel like we've spoken about VAR so much this season. Really dominated. Last question for you all. Becky, let's start with you. Manchester United away is our next competitive game. Of course, back in Premier League. Spurs are currently 5th, Manchester United at 8th. Manchester United have been very, very up and down this season. They've played 20, they've won 10, they've drawn only 1, and they've lost 9. When you think they're getting it back together, they suddenly lose games in really, really poor fashion. They're outside the European places at the moment. Spurs are, of course, gunning for that top 4. Your thoughts ahead of the Manchester United game, how we're set up, and your score prediction?
So yeah, I'll be at that game. The thing is about when you go to United is it's never an easy game. So even when they're on a poor in a form, it's like when we go to Anfield. It's a tricky game. It's a tricky place to go, and that's a massive cliche, but it is. It's interesting to hear about Onana playing despite him being in the AFCON, which is, and I've got a lot of being in Chester. There's a lot of Man United fans around here. Some of them are delighted that he's back. Some people are really disappointed he's not. It's hilarious. Yeah, I think we'll have a few more players back by then. You know, Van der Ven, maybe Maddison will be a bit closer to playing. Romero maybe back by then. So it's a different side that we will be having put out. We've got 9-day gap till then. I'm the most hopeful I think I have been for a long time to go to United and to get a result. We just have to, all the jigsaw pieces have to come together on the day. And again, like you said before, a little bit of luck. But certainly based on form and things, you know, like you said, United had that game when they were 2-0 down at half-time, come back to win 3-2, and then they go and lose the next game to Forest. So it is very hit or miss. We've had games like that where we've deserved to win and we haven't. So I'd like to think if we played our strong team and we're very attacking and we're clinical and we score, you know, quickly, we will blow them away. But who knows? So I'd like to say maybe 2-1 to Spurs.
That'll do. Keep winning in the Premier League. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, clearly United are not having a great season. We've already discovered what it's like to beat them. Second match, first home match for Andrew, of course, getting that 2-0 win, which was such a great moment for us as kind of a rebirth of the club. It felt like that day, didn't it, really? Everyone completely behind the team in United. So, yeah, I think kind of feeling confident going into it. I think the thing I'd be wanting in these next 9 days is clearly to work on the final third, which I'm sure Angie's doing all the time, but it just felt like, you know, without Son, we all knew that's the big test for us, really, during the Asia Cup, finding a regular goal scorer. And I think a lot's going to ride on particularly Richarlison, just sharpening up on those chances. So I agree with Becky's prediction. I think 2-1 sounds about right to me, but I do feel that let's make the most of these 9 days. The fact United aren't playing till Monday night, let's hope that they can have a tricky match at Wigan, and we can go into it in good spirits with hopefully Van der Ven back to be there for the starting lineup.
Yeah, that huge boost for Postecoglou and all of us Spurs fans with Van der Ven back. Ben, are you excited about this Manchester United game, or are you feeling?
I don't think they'll want to be playing us, Chris. I think that, you know, where they're up and down, we're the last thing they want to be doing. You know, when we can free flowing attacking football, we can cause them an awful lot of problems, and we score early. The crowd will be on their backs. It's a tricky game for them. I never thought I'd see that. You know, I'd like to see a repeat of the 6-0, but I'm not that confident. I'm with the guys. You know me, I like a 2-1 Spurs, don't I? So I'm going to stick with that.
I'm going 2-1 as well.
Yeah, but I am confident. I don't think we'll lose. I think we'll go down and at least get a point.
I don't think we've ever had that on the podcast where all four of us have agreed on the score, 2-1 to Tottenham. So
it's never going to happen.
Let's hope it happens. Becky, Becky, thanks so much for coming back on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back with us, and hopefully we can get you back on again soon. Where can people find you? What are you up to at the moment?
So I'm back at school this week, hence why I wasn't at the stadium today. Those of you that know me, I'm on Twitter. I do the cheese room on a Monday night. But you'll see me in the South Stand, or you'll see me down at Tottenham with Jack, come and say hello, and at away games that I'm fortunate to be at as well. So yeah, great. Thanks for having me on. Super fun chat. And I think the last time was the West Ham game, and that was not fun having to talk about after the West Ham game. So it was a lot more fun to talk about tonight's game. We got there, we got through it. like you said, if we'd lost or even got a replay to Burnley, we would have never heard the end of it. So at the end of the day, it's the result that matters. And I'm delighted for Porro as well. First goal this season.
Yeah, well said. And I tell you what, Becky, it's been a lot more enjoyable doing these podcasts this season under Ange. It really has. And Mike, I think you've been on twice this season. We've won both times. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much. No, absolute pleasure. I've had 2 successful Friday nights being on your show, so long may that continue.
Mike, what are you up to at the moment? Where can people find you?
So yeah, BBC South Today. You can follow me on Twitter at AppsMike, and you can see me in the early hours of the morning running around training for the Southampton Marathon in my Tottenham training kit around the streets of Bournemouth and Christchurch, like a sort of Tottenham version of John Terry, really, in that respect. But I'm not proud. I don't mind people seeing me show my colours at that time of the morning.
Well, good luck with the London, not the London Marathon. Good luck with the marathon. Best of luck with that. I know how hard that is to train for that. So a lot of work goes into it, doesn't it? Ben, thanks so much for coming on. It's been your first time on the channel.
It's been an honour.
You've done extremely well, and thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Mate, I am at Twitter, ben.im. I don't really use social media that much. The youngsters.
I don't know whether Ben's frozen or I've lost signal.
No, Ben's gone, I think.
Ben's gone.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, Becky, Mike, thanks so much for your time this evening. I'm absolutely delighted that Spurs have gone through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. Look out for the draw on Monday evening. Let's hope that Spurs can go all the way this season and we can lift the trophy in 2024. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And thanks for all of your support as normal. And we will see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.